All right, welcome back to the Daily Mastermind. George Wright III here, and I am super excited. I've been trying to get this special guest on a podcast for an interview for a while now, and we have finally aligned the planets. So we've got Jennifer Edwards with us. How are you, Jennifer?
Hey, I'm really good, and I'm really honored to be here.
Oh, this is going to be really, really good. And I know that we have a lot of different, amazing projects and things in the works. I do, you do, the marketplace is going great. So timing for your topic really couldn't be any better. So for those of you that do not know Jennifer, let me just do kind of a quick introduction, because Jennifer is Jennifer Edwards. She's an entrepreneur, and she helps women and men clear subconscious patterns that block them from their true success. And you guys, I've talked about this a lot. This is a really, really heavy topic, but she's created a lot of online programs and mentoring and coaching on a real personal level, but also in a group setting that have really caused some tremendous transformations. And I've been very impressed with her social media game. She's got a really good knack for organically growing. She's got a great following on Instagram and YouTube. And I'll make sure that everybody has links to be able to follow her there as well. But I think one of her primary unique talents is that she mixes this practical, well-known established protocols with, these quantum methodologies. We'll kind of talk about that in a little bit to create results. And her approach is not just normal hustle and grind you're going to find in your typical personal development only stuff, but she's changed a lot of lives. I'm really excited to get into a couple of core concepts with her today. So Jennifer, what I want you to do, if you could, just take a second and give us a little bit of your background and explain to the listeners or anyone that might be seeing this or listening to this on the podcast, what's your background? And then how did that kind of lead you into the space and focus you have now? Because you're a well-rounded entrepreneur, but you're kind of in a different space right now. So give us some of your background.
Yeah, thank you, George, for that introduction. And I'm honored to be here. As you can tell, I am a woman. And my background is that I came from a very painful childhood around money. My parents fought constantly and viciously around it. And I am what is called an empath. An empath is someone that takes on other people's energy inside of the room. So it is an unconscious thing. Highly sensitive children do this in their families. There's usually one, and it's usually the oldest. And so I am the oldest, and I am the empath, highly sensitive one of my family.
Now, did you always know that, by the way? Or have you come to realize that that's why you had so much stress around childhood?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yes. So, and that's the thing with a highly sensitive being, is that they don't know that they're this way. So what happens, let me just describe, and then by describing what happens in childhood, then you start to see why you do things as an adult. And so when you're a child and you're highly empathic and highly sensitive, and you're sensing everyone else's emotions, and you're there's literally a psychic activation that's already going inside of you. You're psychically already tuning into people and reading people when you're 5 years old, but no one knows this. So you go to your mom and you say, "Mom, this kid, blah, 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 blah." And your mom says, "No, you're full of it. Go play." That you weren't sensing that. You were sensing this.
You're just being a kid.
Yeah, you're just being a kid. So what happens is you stop trusting yourself in that moment. Those compounded moments cause you to go, "Whoa, okay, well, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I wasn't feeling that." Meanwhile, you know exactly what you were feeling, but you start to second guess, and you start to you lose trust in yourself. Then when you lose trust in yourself, you start to lose confidence in yourself. And whenever you then go to become an entrepreneur and start to go down this road, obviously you have to approach entrepreneurship with confidence and self-trust. Yeah. And if you're approaching your entrepreneur business or your endeavor with no confidence and no self-trust, then you become codependent. You're always looking outside of yourself, trying to please everyone else. And then what happens as an entrepreneur, especially as a female entrepreneur, is you are overextending yourself, hustling, taking yourself out of feminine energy. You're always in a toxic masculine energy, as as a woman who's hustling and grinding all the time. And then you're literally like burning yourself out.
I know that there's a lot of people listening to this right now that are saying something like, that makes a lot of sense all of a sudden. And I actually want to come back to this. So I don't want to distract from your background, but I'm going to kind of put a pin in this, because I think this whole idea of losing confidence or misunderstood self-esteem or lack of identity, right? People are struggling with their identity. Is now some people are listening to this and they're saying that makes sense. Why? Because you at some point in your life have stopped listening and trusting yourself. That is a really, really big key that I want to come back to. I think that's a big thing to point out to people. And I appreciate you mentioning that. So anyway, okay, go back to your background and kind of growing up. And
yeah, well, it's a huge part, because what happened was when I got into, my 20s and 30s, and I'm trying to run a business and trying to be successful at running a business, I'm burning the candle at both ends. I'm trying to people please everyone. I'm burning out my adrenals. Like I start to like
the grind, the hustling grind.
Yes,
right?
It's a grind. You throw off your reproductive system, and it's just like, it doesn't feel good. And what happens with women, okay, so this is a very key with women, and men have this as well. And we are stepping into this, and we're seeing more and more men step into this as well. But women have an automatic radiance and magnetism to their energetic field and energetic aura. And so when we're hustling and grinding, not trusting ourselves, not taking care of ourselves, and we're burning the candle at both ends, we are killing our radiance and killing our magnetism. And
so the hustling grind is not just not producing, it's actually hurting you.
It's hurting.
If you're not in tune. I got you.
Yes, okay. It's hurting. Yes, you will hustle and grind and still not get the results that you want. You can, as a woman, when you heal this part of yourself, you can make millions working very few hours a week, because you have that much magnetism and you have that much radiance that you can call it in, you attract it in.
It's so crazy that you say that, because I just mentioned in a small mastermind we had today that people that lack clarity on what their identity is, because they've now kind of turned away from it and things, but they're producers, right? They're hustlers by nature. What they're going to do is they're going to just grind and grind and grind and grind, because they have to be productive and stay busy. But what it's doing is it's starting to create all this internal chatter of, why am I doing this? And this is not working. And I'm stuck in my head and So all of those problems that are created with, where if this podcast and things you do and I do are trying to help people get past their problems, it really comes back to that core. So I love how you put that, because when you stop trusting yourself, you lose your identity, and then you just grind and grind and grind. It's not just not getting your results, but it's actually counterproductive.
It is counterproductive, because what happens is your arc field starts to shrink and shrink and shrink. And then you're trying to change matter with matter, and you cannot change matter with matter. You have to change matter with energy. We're starting to like step into the quantum in this realm when I start to talk about matter and energy. But when we can start to play in energy, so my belief is that we came here to become masters of our own energy. Everything is energy. And so our thoughts are energy, and they send out a signal to the field, the quantum field. The quantum field is the field of all possibilities, endless possibilities. And so our thoughts become an emotion, which becomes a vibration, which sends out this signal. And then the field is just responding to this vibration, this dominant vibration that's going on inside of you. So this dominant vibration is, I can't do this. I have self-doubt. I don't trust myself. I've got to ask a million people for an opinion. That's what's going out to the field. And that's what the field is going to reflect. So is this why,
you hear, what you focus on grows, right? So if you're in a depressed state or an anxious state or a stressed state, or you're questioning your self-confidence, and you're not even putting it out there, by saying things to people, like a lot of people pretend to be very confident, even though inside they're like, oh, I don't even know who I am. What am I doing? And stuff. You're saying that this is literally the same energy you're going to be getting back and brought back to you. Yeah. You can't, your energy doesn't lie. Yeah. And that's the thing, is that so many people are like one of the things that I grew up, is fake it till you make it. Oh yeah,
right?
for sure.
Yeah. Like
Yep.
that was a big one in the personal development space. Fake it till you make it. And because the energy is so different now and so strong, you can't fake it till you make it. There's no faking it. This is why the healing work is so important on the psyche, because you can't fake it anymore. There isn't any faking it. The energy is going to reflect no matter what. So the more you try to fake it, the worse you're going to try, the worse you're going to make it for yourself. So if you can, you have to submit to a healing journey of going in and looking at the subconscious patterns that are creating the energetic frequency inside of your body that's creating the output to the field that's giving you the response from the field.
Okay, so I'm gonna pause you for a second because I have a whole bunch of questions before you start giving strategies and things like that.
Okay.
One of the questions that kind of came to mind for me, and it's something that comes up for a lot of people, is you hear that comment, fake it till you make it. Mm-hmm. And yet, and which we know is you're not being authentic and real, and you're definitely struggling. But yet you also hear something that's similar, and I know they're different. So I want to get your take on the difference of being able to visualize who you are going to be in the now, right? So fake it till you make it, pretend to be somebody you're not, and visualize who you truly are or who you're planning to be. What's the difference really? Like, I know that one seems like a less authentic, but if you're faking it till you make it, or you're pretending to be who you know you want to be, what's the difference there?
Okay. So faking it till you make it feels like I'm acting in a way. Let me let this process through. Faking it till you make it feels like, okay, let's say I go and I do a live stream and I want to sell something on my live stream. Mm-hmm. So I go on my live stream and I'm not in a good mood. Like I'm in a really crappy mood, but I go on there and I like put on a smile and I'm like, yay. And I'm faking it till I make it. The people on the other end of that are going to sense that energy. They're going to be like, well, something's not right with her. Like she's not like being authentic. Okay.
I like the way you said authentic and acting, because I think there's a difference between acting like something and really, we know that you really truly have greatness and something amazing inside of you. And you're just trying to sort of bring that out over time. And you're just trying to portray that now. That's different than acting. It's authentic.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
I like that.
Yeah. And with visualization, you're not faking anything. You're actually sitting and getting into the feels of it already happening.
So do you think this translates a lot to this concept of imposter syndrome? Meaning, when people, entrepreneurs specifically, and executives and investors, they have this feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm not good enough. This imposter syndrome of they want me to be something I'm not. My self-esteem, my self-confidence not there. Is this sort of how it translates out to these feelings you're feeling like you're just not going to be enough? Or how would you describe that imposter syndrome and kind of overcoming that as aligning with this?
Yeah. So gosh, I have definitely had imposter syndrome in my coaching business because, when I first started it, I was like, who am I? Who am I to show these people how to do this? Who am I to help them shift and rearrange these patterns and programs and stuff like that? So I feel like almost all, unless you're super, super confident, almost all entrepreneurs go through, especially those who are highly sensitive and have ethics and have integrity. They go through the imposter syndrome. Here's what I want to say about that is that you are not going, okay, so in my personal business, I cannot go further than what my energetic container and my energetics can hold. Okay, so my energetics can only hold so much. It can only hold so much money, can only hold so much clients, so many clients. It can only hold so much information because that's how far I've developed it. And so anybody that's in my world right now is going to be a perfect alignment to what I can hold. My work, your work, all of our work is how do I expand myself to be able to hold more? So if I am at a place where I can hold $100,000 a year, how do I expand into $500,000 a year? How do I expand then into $1 million a year? So then what's going to happen is the alignment is going to come the more you're able to hold. So if I'm able to hold $100,000 in a year, then that number of clients are going to show up in my world, and they're going to be exactly what I need. And I'm going to be exactly what they need.
So tell me what you mean when you say hold, because I know that we always talk about stretching outside your comfort zone, because that's where you're going to grow and you've got to stretch. But I love this idea of your energy being able to expand out. Maybe it will help you to feel like you've got more than just your own personal skill sets to get outside your comfort zone, because there's energy and things that can help you to do it. But when you say hold it, you mean because we're not just like popping outside our comfort zone, we're literally allowing ourselves to go past that. Is that what you mean when you say hold?
So it really, like, holding energy and comfort zone, like, level. So when I talk about comfort zone, I always do it in reference to nervous system. Okay. So let me make those, they're two distinct things. Okay. So comfort zone is how far your nervous system is going to allow you before you're going to feel uncomfortable. Okay. So your nervous system has a wall that says, okay, this is as far as I feel comfortable. When I get up to that wall, or when your personality ego gets up to that wall and you're like, oh wait, here comes the alarms. Like, no, we can't let you go past here. Yeah. This is where you got to bust through the comfort zone. Okay. So that's the nervous system.
Got it.
Okay. The container, when I talk about container of holding, it is the nervous system, because you have to activate the nervous system to be able to expand into new levels of income and new levels of growth and new levels of clients and new levels of what you're comfortable with in trading. You know, if you're comfortable trading $5,000, like, you've got to expand your container to be able to hold the nerves around $20,000.
Yeah.
Making a $20,000 trade. You know, so wherever you're at, it is about expanding your energetics. So I'm talking energetics. So it's about expanding the energy around you to be able to hold the people, the places, the things that it requires you to hold. Because by experience, George, there's a complete difference in $100,000, $500,000, $100 million.
Oh, there's people that, like, they couldn't even get a room. They couldn't get in a room with 8, 9, 10 figure, earners and feel comfortable. And it's so true, because now I'm sort of really getting what you're saying in the sense of comfort zone versus your container to hold and the energy you have, because it's like the thermostat, right? You can step, the thermostat, you can heat it up as much as you want, but if your thermostat is set really low, the temperature is going to regulate back to that. Where, so stepping outside your comfort zone or turning the temperature up is fine. But if you want to turn it up and keep it there, that thermostat's got to be up that high. So it doesn't, your own thoughts don't regulate you back down, right?
Exactly.
Okay, I got it.
And
that's awesome.
The thoughts turn into the frequency, the vibration that you're putting out to the field. The field's then just responding.
Well, I've seen over time, like there's so many people I talk to every day that say this. They say, I used to be like, a lot of this energy and thoughts create your life are very woo-woo, da-da-da. Now they're starting to realize, not just through science, science and quantum physics and things like this are proving these things, that everything is energy. Everything's made up of energy. I mean, Wayne Dyer really, really was a good proponent of that. So I like what you're saying, because I think understanding your blocks and where you are and who you are and how you've kind of pushed them back down require you to then understand how to expand your energy to be able to create huge things in your life, right? So you've talked about these specific things, but you've also talked about, how, having it all, but with balance, like this idea of balance. I mean, I really want to get your take on that. I've been wanting to, because I don't know, man, the idea of balance, my whole life, it's like, it's something you're trying to do that you just can't ever get. And, try so hard for, and then there's certain, very, very big thought leaders that say, you're never going to get balance. You're never going to achieve it. And some people that say, define balance, right? So give us your take on that in perspective to this whole conversation that we're having.
Yeah, I have a good take on that, because there's also different personalities. Like, I know your personality, and your personality is very intense, And so you're able, like, and there's a thing called human. What?
You're saying I'm intense?
Yeah.
I've heard that a few times.
I'm pretty intense too, but
There
is this thing called human design. Okay. And I use this a lot in my work, and human design takes the Kabbalah and astrology, and kind of like marries them together and mixes them up. And there's 5 different types of human design that people fall into. And then from there, there's like all different subsets of this. Okay. So you have generator, manifesting generator, manifester, projector, and reflector. Okay. So you are probably a generator. I'm a manifesting generator. So I'm going to explain to you what a generator is. A generator is somebody that keeps the world going. Like you've got lots of ideas. You're fast, you move fast, you think fast, you're like getting it done. You're turning things, right?
Yeah.
This is a generator. So your design is to generate for the planet, generate more, generate expansion. Okay. So your mindset is expansion. Like you have vision, you're a visionary, you've run companies, you build companies, so there's that aspect of you this is your balance. Like your balance is, let me get up, let me go, let me create. Right. Mm-hmm. So as a woman, my balance is not that. It's not going all the time. It is, let me take a bath. Let me buy myself some roses. Let me dance around my room. Let me enjoy myself. Let me that's the balance for the feminine and the masculine. Your masculine balance is, I want to work out. I want to build a company. I want to have nice things. I want to provide and protect, because that's the masculine. The feminine is flow. It's
you just hit my daily checklist, actually, my daily rituals.
Really?
Work out, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
No, but I like what you're saying, because I think as we grow up, and this is back to your point about not listening to ourselves, and we create an identity, probably more better termed as a mask, right? Of who we are and what we're doing and what balance is and what success is. One of my business partners, Robert Stuber, talks about when failure is better than success. And so it always comes back to perspective. And if what you're saying is balance is a perspective, but it's also an alignment with who you are, so that you know what balance is for you. That's basically what you're saying?
Here's what balance is not. Balance is not working equal amount of time for equal amount of leisure. You're not like 5 hours of work, 5 hours of family time, 5 hours of exercise, it's like that is not balance. And this is what we have been trained to see balance as, is this equilibrium of time spent. Okay. So we command time. Time is ours to command. So it isn't about this equilibrium. It's about what is my choice and how I want to spend my time. And if I'm spending my time churning and burning in a way that is stressful, that doesn't feel good, that is burning out my adrenals, that is taking my health, that is actually working against me, that is not achieving balance. However, if I'm working and I'm enjoying it and I'm loving it and I'm dancing and I'm taking baths and I'm exercising and I'm spending time with family that I want to spend, and I'm spending my time the way that I desire to spend my time, that's is balance.
I got it. I love it. And I love the fact that you're helping people, especially listening to this, to understand that balance is different for everyone. That balance has to align with who you are. And I think it really should be brought up, this point that, because if you don't understand that, just like when you're grinding, it's working against, what you're trying to truly produce in the first place. When you're grading yourself on your balance, I mean, I know as entrepreneurs, I certainly have, I've always like, okay, I really don't feel like I spend enough time with the family. I really don't feel like you're grading yourself negatively. It's really destroying your identity and your self-confidence and esteem, right? Because I can be a very successful businessman. And if I'm grading myself by the time I spend with my family, then I'm not feeling very successful or balanced or productive, when what I should be grading myself on what I do now, like what I've evolved to, which is the quality, not the quantity.
Yes.
The one-on-one versus the group, the being there, not as just and you have to shift through your life, right? But as a provider, but as someone that's there to support, because you could be someone that spends no time with friends and relationships, but when they're in trouble and they call you, they know they can call you and you respond. And that's a quality relationship.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
So that's huge. I love that. So what would you say would be things people should do to identify what they need to do for balance, rather than ask the typical question is how would you recommend people create balance? Or maybe it is the same question. What is a tip you would have for someone to either identify or know that they can achieve more balance in their life?
What lights you up? What lights you up every day?
Lights you up.
Like, do I want to work out? Yes or no? Like, what lights me up today? What lights me up to do? Does it light me up to sit in the sun for a little bit? Does it light me up to take a bath? Does it light me up to go for a run? Does it light me up to take a walk? Does it light me up to take my daughter for lunch? Does it light me up to, go on a little trip for the weekend? What lights you up? I feel like this is where we're moving, is into this space of what lights us up as our human vessel. What is
crazy about that?
Pleasure.
You know what I love about that? And I'm so glad you did this. And maybe sometimes you have to say things a certain way to get to get the awareness. And that's what's happening for me right now, because I feel like our life is all about setting the goals and the vision and clarity and objectives and grind to get a life that you like, to get to live like, do things now like most won't, so you can live like most can't, right? You've heard that a million times. Yeah. But what you're saying is similar to what I'm saying a lot of times on the podcast is, what do you want your life to be like? But you're saying it in the terms of when you find what lights you up, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but this is kind of my perspective. When you find what lights you up, you can create more balance in your life, which is going to assist your confidence, your self-esteem, and everything else, which in turn literally is what causes the productivity and results and breakthroughs versus the other way around, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And it's also living more presently. This is also a thing. This is something that I've really been mindful of, is living more presently. I catch myself living in the past or living in the future instead of living in a really present space, in a really appreciative and grateful space. I was catching myself earlier today about that. I was really having to work through this because last week I had a really magical week. I created all these magical moments, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they were like stacking and stacking and stacking, just all these like really incredible things. And then, I haven't felt as magical this week, I haven't had this like stack of like all these really incredible things. And I'm like, well, why am I not living like last week? Why isn't it not happening like last? And I was like, wait, stop. Let me just be appreciative of what happened last week, and like feel that magic that like came into my life in all these different ways from all these different people. And then feel into that and just be grateful for today, for this moment. Like maybe today isn't supposed to be like that. But I feel like the more that we are present and the more that we are in gratitude and appreciation for now, the more of these magical moments can happen.
Yeah. What you focus on, you're going to attract, right? I think it's back to your earlier point, is if you're focused on what you don't have, you're going to get more of that. Right. That's the crazy thing. I love how you're putting this, because I do think that it goes straight to things I've heard you mention before, which is that just, setting goals is just not enough. You can't just set goals or listen to personal development or take these courses or, set clarity or daily rituals. And those are important, but you talk a lot about, you've got to do that inner work. And I think that's huge. How would you say, let's say someone's listening to this and they're like, okay, this is making a lot of sense as to why I have all this internal chatter. I'm not feeling aligned with what I want to do. I have all these things. And it's like, man, this whole topic, this big, huge, broad topic of do the inner work. Yeah. Where does somebody start? Like besides in general, look, if they're listening to this and they're hearing this, they're starting, right? This is it. Where do you, with your clients and with your, mentoring and things, where do you generally, and I know it's different for everybody, but where do you generally have somebody start? Like, where do they begin this process?
Yeah. So my work has evolved so much. And right now where my work is, I was gifted with 10 questions in a very specific sequence about a month ago. And what I mean by gifted is that it was a literal download from heaven. I was sitting there, I was actually in church, and it was just like, pick up your phone and type this. And I literally was, it poured out of me in like 2 seconds. I could have never written those on my own, ever.
Total inspiration. Yeah.
Yes, it was total inspiration. And it was these 10 questions, and I started using them. I started working through them on a daily basis. And what these 10 questions do is they guide you through like a process of like, what are you feeling? What are your emotions? What are you believing? All the way through to the end of it, which is, what are you celebrating? Because we have to have both ends. Like, this is a world of duality. We have to have both ends. And so what this line of questions does is it leads you from the negative to the positive. And whenever you are led through your stuff, through to the positive of gratitude and celebration, then what begins to happen is you start to break down the stories. This is the thing that I've seen happen as I have done this, is that I will get into the middle part of the questions where I'm like looking at what my fears are, and I'm looking at what I'm worried about, and I'm looking about like what the lies are, and like the things that I've believed, and I'll write them down. I'll be like, oh, that isn't even that big of a deal. Like, what
Maybe
in the world was I freaked out about? Like, this is insane.
I've had that happen.
So what I'm seeing is like, I'm literally seeing like the breakdown of these lies that I have lived by for so long. Because what we mostly do is we keep these lies and fears in our head. Yeah. And we're projecting them out and living them out, and they feel like they're so big. It's kind of like that whole idea of, whenever you have a lot of things to do and you feel super overwhelmed, but then you make a list and you write them all down. You're like, oh, that's not so much. I can get that done in like no time.
Because your mind expands it all to be this mass, and it's blinding. Exactly. It really blinds you from like the reality of it not being a big deal.
Exactly. And so working through these questions, I've literally I'm just like poo-pooing all my lies that I've been telling myself all these years. And so they're like disintegrating before my very eyes, and there's other so that like the clients.
Is that a process that you kind of now take your clients through these questions?
Yeah.
Process.
Yeah.
Got it.
It's a process. And then the other thing, like I am pretty far along in my healing journey. Like I've been healing for about 8 years now. And so pretty far along in like chipping away at these aspects of myself that no longer served me. So the other part of it's not just the 10 questions. I teach people like how to heal like deep, deep, deep trauma that they're not even aware is there, and how to move that out of the body, and because what happens is the body stores energy through emotion.
Right.
The emotion code is a really great resource to read or to understand, but the body stores emotion. And what happens is when the body stores that emotion, it becomes like a magnet to more of that energy. It attracts more of that energy. So like you have something happen and you're like, why do I keep attracting the same freaking thing over and over and over again? And it's because you have an energetic magnet to that situation. So it's oftentimes like you have a relationship and it's like a really toxic relationship. You break up, you're like, oh, I'm good. Like you're a year out. You're like, man, I'm feeling good. I want to date again. So you start dating again. And then all of a sudden you find yourself in a relationship with somebody else, different name. They look totally different, but they're the same personality.
Got it.
And you're like, how is this happening? How am I like attracting this? It's just because you have a trauma bond. It's called a trauma bond. You have a trauma bond that is magnetizing that same scenario over and over and over again. And so what I do is I teach people how to like identify the trauma bond and to alchemize it. Alchemy is the transformation of energy.
Wow. Yeah. And it's so interesting because I know there's a lot of people, not just entrepreneurs, business owners, that say those kind of comments like, I just don't get why I keep going through these same
Mhm.
cycles, right? They might be cycles in business and relationships and
Yeah.
communication, in money, because money is a big one too. These cycles, and there's obviously a reason for it. And I
Yeah.
think perception, growth, development, those all make a big difference. I guess I'm really
Mhm.
curious, and we never really kind of hit this, so maybe this is a great question for you. Was there an event in your life or a point in time that really is what caused you to shift into this direction? Because you're still an entrepreneur, just like you've always been, a very, passionate, driven entrepreneur. But the focus and the attention and perspective you put on it right now is in a different area. Was there a certain point in your life that you pivoted sort of down this path, or did it just gradually, was there an event or something, or did you just gradually kind of start to learn and grow down this path of energy and healing and that type of mentoring? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. So it started out, I was married for 6 years and it was a very toxic relationship. And he understood energy, but he used it in a negative way. He was like a wizard it was a dark wizard. And so he used it very negatively. So I had like this overarching understanding of energy.
Got it.
And then, I got divorced and I started working with Tony Robbins, and I went into Platinum Partner and I did all of that, in 2015 with Tony. And Tony's spiritual guide is a guy named Donnie Epstein. And Donnie is a light wizard. Like, he's phenomenal at energy. Like, he understands it. And he created what's called network spinal analysis, where he sends energy up and down the spine. And that's how he adjusts chiropractically. And then he's trained all of these people. So I started to understand this higher level of energy from Donnie.
Got it.
And then from there in 2016, so I understood this level of chiropractic as well because of Donnie. And, whenever you're in the Tony world, like, you just kind of like, go to his healers as well and start using those things, those resources and tools that Tony uses. And so I was doing that. And then when I got into like 2016, my cousin came to visit me, and I was living in St. Louis at the time. And she said, I'm going to see this chiropractor. And he's like this really weird dude. Like, he doesn't even touch you. He like does this energy thing like over your body. And I was like, what? There is a chiropractor in this area that does that? Like, who is this guy? I got to know him. She was like, really? Like, you're like, okay, I'll tell you. So I started going to him, and he started healing my body. And I had so much deep anger and so much deep stuff inside of my body. And he just started moving it out I went to him every week for a year and a half, and sometimes twice a week.
Wow.
Sometimes 2 and 3 hours. Like, I would sit in his office and he would just move and move. Like, he would stick his finger in my mouth and like there's points up in your jaw. But he would stick his finger up here and like point on these things, and he would like turn dials on my face and on my head.
So you really evolved from like the entrepreneur Tony Robbins into these advanced programs, and then personally yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Wow. So that was a big catalyst, was working with Dr. Phil. He's now in Atlanta, Georgia. So that was a big catalyst. And then from that catalyst, I met a woman in South Florida named Karen Torres. And Karen has been my teacher since 2019. I've been in a consecutive class with her, going up in frequency, where I literally were like taking the quantum field and creating designs in the field with energy with our hands, and putting these designs into the body, taking the body up in frequency. Like, my teacher is 62 years old. She literally looks 30. Wow. Because the higher you go up in frequency, you turn back the hands of time in the way that you even look.
Yeah. Well, so, and it's time, right? Because you've kind of sort of been a great example of what we talk about a lot, which is that you get a certain amount of experience that's very valuable to the world. And then through your own learning and teaching it and working through it, you develop it. And then that's why certain people that are very gifted at what they do, all of a sudden might also, like you just said, even a month ago, develop 10 questions that now come to you that you're able to use. Yeah. So programs are always developing and ongoing, and yet they also develop not just because of your experience, but, and people might be listening to this thinking they don't have all the answers, imposter syndrome and stuff, but programs develop over time. And this just shows from your experience. And I love that you gave us kind of that timeline, because you didn't just jump into it. You didn't just know what you're doing. You had to experience it. You had to live it, but yet you've been on kind of a path of an entrepreneurial path with this topic for a while. So that's awesome.
Yeah. It was kind of like a simultaneous growth. And that's the thing that you also have to have patience with. Like, I've had to have patience with myself and with this process. Believe me, there were times where I lost patience over it, because I'm like, gosh, just get it grown. But I was going through such a cathartic transformation in my own body, in the cellular level, in the DNA level, that it was just like, this is what you can handle right now. Just be okay with it. My bills were getting paid. That's what mattered. That's what counted at that moment. I was going through so much transformation. For me to hold, like, some of my clients now, I hold tremendous space for, like, they're going through a lot. And I could not have held that 2 years ago for these people. I could not. And so,
well, patience is a hard thing too. So I'm glad you brought that up, because people are like, okay, these processes are important, but in the meantime, I have to make a living. I have to build my business. I have to grow.
Yeah.
And so patience is a really hard thing, but you can be making progress while you're developing,
Exactly. And that's what I've done. Is I jumped in and I did the thing, and I said, this is what I'm going to do. And I just kept doing it despite the fear, despite the moments where I'm like, I'm not measuring up to other coaches that are, blowing past me. I'm not, this, and I'm not that. And, all these self-judgment things that come up. And I just healed through them layer after layer after layer, until there was like a peace and a wholeness and a love for myself that's so unconditional that it doesn't matter what anybody else is doing in the space. I'm doing what I'm guided to do, and I'm being true to myself, and I'm honoring myself. And that is what counts. And I also have a belief that there is, that moment where, like, my next level will come, where my business goes and goes to the next level.
Yeah.
Well,
so. and I love that you've kind of really hit on some topics in a different way than we normally talk about, but you also always circle back to these universal truths of, you have to have patience. You have to accept and realize that, it's not about getting to the destination. It's the path that is the thing that can create the happiness and results along the way, and stay in the present and stay in the now. Well, and I wish we had more time, because I actually I wrote down a whole bunch more questions. So I might have to ask you these, and we can do a follow-up, but I know you have some other projects and things coming up as well. So before we end here, what's a really good way for people that are listening to this or seeing this, that they can follow you or jump in, your DMs, or how can we best have individuals follow you so that they can get connected with stuff that you have going on?
Yeah. So the best place to follow me for this kind of information and guidance is on my Instagram. I'm very active on my Instagram. I really love it. And that is Jen Edwards official. And it's JENN Edwards official.
And I'll put those links in the show notes as well, but Jen with two N's, Edwards official.
Edwards official is my Instagram. And I go live there quite a bit and share content there. I know you have content as well as videos and things and short story and reels and things. So that is a great place. I've noticed you have a lot there. Yeah.
So,
there is a lot there. Yeah. I go live
where
there.
Else?
I do have a YouTube channel, and that's Jen Edwards. It's youtube.com/Jen Edwards, JENN Edwards. That is more relationship focused and like getting out of toxic relationships and healing the aspect of yourself that attracts toxicity in relationships. So that's what that has been focused on. It's also called twin flames.
Okay.
That's the type of relationship that is. And then I have my website. My website is jenedwards.net, JENNedwards.net. And then I have a program that I am enrolling for the new year. It's called The Pattern. And it's a 6-week program that is all about deconstructing your patterns and reconstructing patterns that actually benefit you because the brain forms what's called neural pathways it's like a pathway that you automatically take, whether it's good or bad, whether it serves you or not.
It becomes automatic.
What you have to do is you have to identify that neural pathway and say, okay, we're going to cut that neural pathway off and we're going to create a new one. So that's exactly what this program does. It shows you how to create new neural pathways. And then being inside of a 6-week container like this, you're practicing it all the time. Every single day. You have to be
focused. It's like this is 6 weeks starting in January?
In January 3rd.
And they can find info on that on your Instagram as well as
on my Instagram and on my website. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah.
Well, who would be the ideal? I know we're running out of time, but who would be the ideal person for that? This is for anyone, single, married, business, entrepreneur, investor. It's identifying your neural patterns and deconstructing those and creating new ones, right?
Yes. And the thing that I teach inside of there is like tools to soothe your nervous system, because that's what is creating the neural pathway. It's the avoidance of pain. You're afraid to experience certain kind of pain. So you try to avoid it. So then you create this neural pathway that takes you in a direction that you actually experience pain. So what I teach is how to soothe your nervous system so that you can get beyond that wall and so that you can expand and grow.
I love that because I have been and I've really been on the bandwagon lately with neuroplasticity and the brain science. I mean, I think that people are learning that your mind, your brain, your energy, these things are all connected, but they're also very specific things you can do in all those areas. So great. Yeah. Well, I think that that's going to be something individuals should definitely check out. I think I'm a big proponent of having a container that, like you said, is a fixed period of time that you're focused on it. There's no better time than first of the year. So that's great to hear. We'll put that in the show notes. But one of the big things I just want to kind of summarize as we leave here, everybody, is you really, the content, go back through this interview, because the content of really identifying where maybe you've broken down your own self-confidence, your own self-worth, what type of energy you're putting out, whether you're consciously or subconsciously doing it, and what you can do to really push past your areas of fault and holding back and obstacles and blocks and things in your business, your life, your communication, because it is ultimately all connected and it comes back to your perspective. So super, super glad that we were able to finally connect. I'm really looking forward to more stuff down the road. I know we've got some projects that are going to potentially happen here first of the year as well together. So I'm looking forward to that, but thank you so much for being here. You're amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It was super fun to do this.
That's great. Okay, everybody, this has been the Daily Mastermind. I'm George Wright III, been here with Jennifer Edwards. Have an amazing day and we'll talk with you soon.
Thanks, you guys.